At this time, I would like to introduce Mr. Stephen Gilbride, a resident of the Greater Washington area, and he's here as a son of the Polish Holocaust survivor. His mother, Bożena Urbanowicz-Gilbride, is the author of this book. And Mrs. Gilbride represents the interest of the Polish Catholic Holocaust survivors. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Stephen Gilbride.
Thank you. It's great seeing all these people here that make sure the Polish heritage and our history carries on. Thank you. My name is Stephen Gilbride. I'm the son of a Polish Holocaust survivor. My mother, Bożena Urbanowicz-Gilbride, and her family were victims of the devastation caused by Hitler's Germany. I'm here today to share some history and hopefully remind everyone that even as we may see the lowest points in our lives, the future always holds promise. Many people are familiar with Hitler's effort to eliminate the Jewish population in the Third Reich Germany, but not often familiar with his intent to obliterate the Polish population. In Hitler's speech in Obersalzberg, just 1 week prior to launching his attack on Poland in 1939, he stated to his military commanders, that I quote, "Accordingly, I have placed my death head formations in readiness, for the present only in the East, with orders to them to send to death, mercilessly and without compassion, men, women, and children of Polish derivation and language. Only thus shall we gain the living space, or Lebensraum, which we need." Those are Hitler's words to his commanders: send to death mercilessly and without compassion men, women, and children of Polish derivation and language. Thus, the threat of simply being Polish was just as real as the threat of simply being Jewish. And the book Children of Terror, which my mother co-authored with her Jewish friend, provides us a unique insight to the plights of a Polish child and a Jewish child struggling to survive a racial purging no one would ever want to see repeated. So, we all need to appreciate what it truly means to humanity when people are rounded up and targeted based on their national heritage or religious or political beliefs. We need to truly understand what it means for a family to be forcibly separated by a government. I'm here today not only as the son of a Holocaust survivor, but also as the grandson of a woman who was separated from her children when taken into custody by a xenophobic racist government. My grandmother was separated from her husband and her children for over 13 years, simply because she spoke negatively about the political atmosphere that existed under Hitler's government. When you read my mother's book, Children of Terror, you will be rewarded with an insight of not only how we could all suffer under intolerance, but how we can survive and rise above it. The author's journey through this period of harsh Nazi nationalistic agendas shows us that in the end, we all share the same desires to not just survive, but to succeed. This is central to the Polish spirit. The challenge to the Polish nation and the people of Europe in World War II was an atrocity for so many, but the spirit and endurance of the Polish state persisted. So many heroes of the Polish underground and government in exile refused to accept another demise of the Polish state, and not only fought to defeat the enemies, but also to ensure a thriving Polish land would continue to exist. I'm proud of my Polish heritage. In my statement here today, I want to share some historical facts of the era my mother survived as a reminder of the true essence of the heritage we all share. I want to also thank the Library of Congress and of course in Wikipedia and some of the research that was available to the forum. In 1939, the Polish armed forces in the West formed to fight alongside the Western Allies against Nazi Germany and its Axis stations during World War II. These Polish forces were part of Allied shock troops, sent to fight behind enemy lines and typically be the first to attack enemy positions. Other Polish forces, the Polish armed forces in the East, were raised within Soviet territories for the same purposes. In 1940, the Polish government in exile signed an agreement with the British government to form a Polish Air Force in the UK and formed two Polish fighter squadrons, the 302 Poznański Squadron and the 303 Kosciuszko Squadron. The squadrons were composed of Polish pilots and ground crews. British Air Officer Commander Hugh Dowling said that had it not been for the magnificent work of the Polish squadrons and their unsurpassed gallantry, I hesitate to say that the outcome of the battle would have been the same. The largest of all Polish resistance organizations was the Home Army, or AK, Armia Krajowa, which was loyal to the Polish government in exile in London. The AK was formed in 1942 and numbered about 100,000 members. In the beginning of 1943, it had reached a strength of about 200,000. In the summer of 1944, when Operation Tempest, which was a Polish Home Army uprising, when that began, AK reached its highest membership numbers, estimated to be between 300,000 and 500,000 troops. The underground organization Gilbride was born the same year and was supported by the Home Army, which provided facilities for forging German identification papers. It was the Polish government in exile that called for an investigation into the Katyn massacre in 1943. The Katyn massacre serves as an example of the brutality of the Soviet Union that was being unleashed on Poland from the east, while Germany was devastating Poland from the west with its own orders to kill. To be clear, the Katyn massacre was about the Polish homeland, but we must take note that the Polish Army officer class that was slaughtered and was representative of a multi-ethnic Polish state at the time, which also included Ukrainians, Belarusians, and Polish Jews, including the chief rabbi of the Polish Army, Baruch Steinberg. These people were part of a multi-ethnic Polish Army officer class victims, serving with Polish officers and comprising part of the estimated 22,000 deaths at the hands of the Soviets. Again, it was the Polish government in exile that called for an investigation into the Katyn massacre upon the discovery of the massacre in the Katyn forest in April of 1943. The Polish resistance movement in World War II was the Polish Home Army at its forefront, with the Polish Home Army at its forefront, was the largest underground resistance movement in all occupied Europe, covering both German and Soviet zones of occupation. The Polish resistance is most notable for disrupting German supply lines to the Eastern Front, providing military intelligence to the British, and for saving more Jewish lives in the Holocaust than any other Western Allied organization or government. Although the Polish nation persisted on the map after World War II, it remained as a Soviet-occupied and controlled nation. But again, the Polish spirit for democracy and independence would rise, and ultimately, with the leadership of Lech Walesa and the working movements, would attain semi-free elections in 1989. I personally attended the Catholic University in Lublin in 1984, and I saw the feelings of suppression and the spirit of resistance in the Polish people. We were embraced because we were Americans, and the Polish citizens quietly made clear to us their disdain for the occupying Soviets and their desire to have Poland not just be a section of the USSR on a map, but return to a truly independent nation. So while some European nations were able to truly celebrate the end of the war and the end of foreign occupations in 1945, the battle persisted for others, including Poland. And the Polish people and will endure in their true spirit to ensure the existence of a proud, independent nation we have today. Polish citizens risked and often gave their lives not just for the soil the country would stand on, but for whom it would stand with and for the principles of humanity. This is us. This is our heritage to carry forward. Let us all remember the Polish citizens that fought for what we have today, a national heritage we are proud of. In closing, I want to share a point to you that demonstrates that the spirit of the Polish people we embrace throughout this, and does persist today. I recently had the honor of working with Polish Heritage Group members to defend how our Polish history would be represented in recent House and Senate bills. I believe we successfully steered the language in those bills from being what would have been a false and misleading representation of Poland. We all need to continue to be cognizant of our past through the reading of history and books such as Children of Terror, so we can continue not only to stand up for our Polish heritage, but continue to help others who may be the victims of modern-day discrimination or inhumane acts. That is our proud history, our current stature, and our future. Thank you for your time. I want to say that Poland has not yet perished so long as we still live.